In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to customize the Articulate Presenter player. We'll show you how to work with the logo and presenter panels, the menu structure here, the glossary, the notes, the previous next button, seek bar, volume, the player color, you name it. We're going to take a look at it. So let's head on over to Presenter and get started. All right, I'm here in Presenter, and to access the player properties, I'm going to select the player button in the publishing section of the Articulate tab within PowerPoint. And when I do, the player properties area is going to open. And ladies and gentlemen, new to Studio 13, absolutely dynamite feature, a live preview over here on the right of your player. We'll make some changes to the player over here on the left, and when we do, we will notice it happen over here on the right. And not only will I see it, I can interact with it. I can see how it's going to look, feel, and function. Really awesome. Now across the top, you'll see the options that we have for editing our player. We've got features, menu, resources, glossary, colors and effects, text labels, and the other is going to be our browser settings. So let's take a look at each of these in turn. Let's start with the features. So moving from the top to the bottom, we have player tabs, features, and controls. And here's the cool thing. Starting up here on the top, player tabs. So we have the player tabs up across the top, top bar right, top bar left, and then in the sidebar. What I can do is I can take these elements, notes, glossary, menu, exit, and resources, and I can choose where I want them to be, with one exception, and that's the exit button. So for now, let's take resources, for example. Let's say I want resources to be in the top bar left. Well, right now it's in top bar right. So what I can do is select the resources right there, use the up arrow, and move it to the top bar left, and you'll notice that it changes over here. Pretty cool. I want to take maybe my menu and glossary and notes and move those up to top bar right. There's menu, there's glossary, there's notes. Perfect. So I can really take these and put them wherever I want them to be. If I want, I could take my resources and I could move it down into the sidebar, and now it appears down here. Really cool to customize it to the needs that you have for your course. Now that one exception is the exit area here. The exit button does need to stay up in top bar right or top bar left. It cannot come down here into the sidebar. Next up, we have features. So title. Title is appearing right up here. I may decide I don't want the title to appear, so I can make it disappear by deselecting or give it a new name by renaming it right here. Also, logo. If I'd like to add a logo and have a logo appear up here in the logo panel area, I would do that by selecting click to add logo, navigate to the logo that I'd like to add, and then add it into my presentation. Presenter. Do I want presenter bio information right here? Maybe even a picture of them. Now to add that, what we do is we actually go to the slide properties area, select a library, and right from here, you can add and edit and delete presenter. So you can put some biographical information, put a headshot in there, and then once you have them selected on a slide-by-slide basis, you can decide who is going to be the presenter and then have them be present for that slide in that presenter panel. Let's come on back here to the player properties once again. Now, down here below, speaking of slide properties, these are going to be what are called the default settings for the player. So the volume, play, pause, seek bar, whether these are going to be present, that's a default feature. The menu, whether the menu, the glossary, and the notes are present, that is going to be a default player feature. Now I say that because if we come back to the slide properties, once again, you'll notice that we have these player defaults as a setting in the slide properties area. So the features that are going to be present for this particular slide are the default features that I was just showing you. However, on a slide-by-slide basis, right here in the slide properties, I can choose to customize and have some items present and others not present. So let's say I have a quiz, for example, and I would like the glossary to not be present for the quiz. Well, I would simply deselect glossary. So this gives me the opportunity to very easily have default features for all of my slides and then come in and customize individual slides, those items that are going to be present in the player. So coming back now to the player menu once again, just as a recap here for the features, we have the player tabs here where they're going to be present, top right, top left, or in the sidebar. the title, logo, presenter, elapsed time, and the presenter information as well as these default areas here. Really, you can look to slide properties to edit the presenter information, and then these controls, those default controls, those are going to interplay on a slide-by-slide basis over in the slide properties area. So think about that. You can go back and forth. Now the next and previous buttons here, you'll notice you cannot control those right from here as a default. Those will be done on the slide properties area. Now next up we have the menu. Now the menu is a lot of fun to work with here. When you come in, you will see that your slide titles have already been pulled in. If you've given them names in the slide outline, those will be pulled in here as the slide names. But if you'd like to rename them, not a problem. You can simply click on the slide title name here and rename it, or use the rename button down below. And you will notice that any changes are occurring over here in this live update preview here. So multi-level navigation. If you would like to have some of these items appear indented underneath so we can demote these, you'll notice that it is updated here. And what I can do is I can collapse the menu and then it will start collapsed. If I have my menu items opened here, they will start open. So I'm going to have mine collapsed, and what I'm going to do is come into these other options here. So we have some additional options. Right down below is where I'll start and work my way up, actually, because what we can do if we use that multi-level navigation, we can choose to have those levels expand when the user reaches that level. So we have some options here in terms of what they can do and what they can do within those levels. Now, speaking of restrictions, navigation restriction. Do we want the learner to be able to navigate freely throughout the course by clicking on any slide in the menu, or do we want to restrict them? If we restrict them, what's going to happen is that they can visit slides that they've already been to, but they have to go in order. So they have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Once they get to 5, they can always go back, but they can't jump ahead. Or we could completely lock them out and say, all right, the menu's there for you to know where you're at, but you're not going to be able to use it for navigation. So those are some options that we have right here with the menu. At any point in time, you decide, you know what, I don't like the changes that I've made to my menu. I'd like to reset it. I can select Reset from Presentation, click OK, and it gets reset. But do know this, that if you've renamed all of your slides right here, they will get reset back to what they were originally. So be careful when it comes to resetting. All right, now let's take our attention to resources and glossary. Resources. If you'd like to provide a file for your learner to download during the course, it might be a PDF document or a Word doc, PowerPoint doc, whatever the case might be, you can provide them access via the Resources tab. To do so, here's what you can do. Select the Add icon, give it a title. So maybe I have a PDF document out there, and I can either, if I have it out there in cyberspace somewhere, I can provide a link to that document. So I can save that, and you'll see that it appears here. You'll see a little URL icon for the PDF document, and over here on the right in the resources area, look at that. My title appears right there. The learner can click on that and access that link. If I'd like it to be local, if I'd like to publish that PDF out as part of the file package here that I'm sending out to the web, what I could do is I could, instead of doing a URL, I could do a file. I would browse to that file, select it, and then when Presenter publishes the course out, it will be pulled into the published output. So 2 different ways that we can add resources into our resources area here. Glossary. Now I don't have my glossary selected, so I'm going to come to my features area and I'm going to add my glossary in. You'll notice it appear right here. We come back to my glossary area. To add the glossary terms, all I have to do is select the add term and I can begin typing. Articulate, an awesome company. I save it. And you'll notice it is now live here. I can preview it. Pretty cool. So resources and glossary, really easy to add resources for my learners to download. And glossary, add terminology for my learner. And once again, remember, if I'm adding terms in here on a slide-by-slide basis, I can choose to have the glossary present or not present. Good idea to keep in mind for that quiz. If I don't want the learners to see the terms, I can turn it off for that particular quiz slide. Next up, we have colors and effects. So all the color scheme that you see here, this is the default color scheme, but this is really cool. I can come into color scheme here, and I can choose one of the built-in themes. Maybe it's going to be dark blue. Or I can go to advanced color editing, and you will see that every element of this player I have access to. So I could come into the base, for example, the main background, and choose to have it be that color there, and then over here, maybe it's this color, and I could start building it out slowly but surely and changing all of the elements in the player here. So this is really great because if I have some company branding, some branded colors that I would like to go with, I can come in and I can customize all the elements of the player to match my corporate color scheme. When I have it ready, I can then save the selected scheme to a file. And this is great because now that file could be sent to my coworkers who could bring it in and use it as well. Page color background, what's the background of the browser going to be here? Maybe it's going to be this color, so I can change that here as well. And then the player font. What do I want the font type to be here? Maybe I want it to be something a little bit lighter. So I could change the player font elements here also to have it look a little bit different. So those are some quick items here in the colors and effects area. Down here in the text labels area, once again, we're talking about the built-in labels, so resources, previous, next. I could come in here and I could change the language. If I want to, for example, if I know I have a French audience, I could change it to French, and these built-in items will change. Anything that I've put in, maybe the title, that's not going to change, but anything that is built in would change to that new language. And maybe in my company here, the next button, maybe we say, well, we want that to say enter. So I would come to find the next button. And instead of saying next, it's going to say enter. I'm going to update the preview. And over here on the right, we will see that it now says enter. Pretty slick. Other. So this is how the browser is going to function. So when this course is launched, should it display at the current browser size that the user has? Should it resize the browser to an optimal size? Or should it resize the browser to fill the screen? The player size, do we lock the player here at its optimal size, or do we fill the browser? These will play off of one another. So if I tell the browser to fill the screen and then the player to fill the browser window, that'll give me a much bigger player. So play around with those settings to see what's going to work best for you. Speaking of what's working best here, if you know that you have learners on a lot of different platforms in terms of their browsers, you may want to launch the player in a new window to get past some security restrictions. And so doing this here, by selecting it, you will create a new launch page, and then you have some options under it as well. Do we want the course to resume when prompted here? And so this has to do with the LMS. So these are some LMS options that you'll want to play with. So will the course always resume? Will it never resume? So what this means is that if the learner leaves the course and then they come back, do you want to prompt them to begin the course every single time? Should it always prompt to resume where they left off? Or never prompt them? Should they always restart the course, or should it just always resume right away? So some options there for your learner to make some choices. So that's a little bit about the customization area. Once you get all of these items set in your course, what you can do is you can save this player out. So you can export it out, again, send it to your coworkers. You can then import if they have one that you want to import. You'll notice that I have some built in here, my Studio 13 player that I've been playing with. It'll change everything automatically and dynamically for me. So the logo, the presenter panel, the look, the feel, all of these items can be updated dynamically by saving this file out and then importing it. Your coworkers can do it, you can do it. It's really cool. So that's just a little bit about the player properties in Articulate Presenter. If you have any question about working with any area here in terms of editing the player properties, would encourage you to join us in the eLearning Heroes community. Stop on by the forums, ask your questions. We are going to be there along with thousands of other professionals sharing tips, tricks, best practices. So stop on by, ask your questions. We are going to be there to help you out. Take care.